What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. I've been wanting to make a video about this for a long time, but because I knew it was going to be very controversial, it was going to rub some people the wrong way, I withheld it. And so now here it is. And I thought that this current event, that's probably going to be in the title of this video, is a good time to make my point about what it is that I feel about this particular subject. So without further ado, those of you that may not know, there is a Puerto Rican artist named Arcangel, who is very popular. He has had a long career. I listened to him when I was growing up. A lot of kids from Puerto Rico listened to him growing up, and he's still very popular today. And essentially, he recently had a concert, I think in Spain somewhere, and he kind of had this little interlude moment or whatever where he stopped the music to glaze Spain for bringing churches and schools and roads and all this stuff, and basically saying that like Spain don't owe anybody an apology for what happened to the Caribbean, Latin America. Like, he's proud of his Spanish heritage, proud of his motherland, Spain. That's what he said. This is what he looks like, by the way. But anyways, I encourage you to go watch the clip. I didn't want to include it because I wanted it kind of to focus more on what I'm talking about here. But if you want to see the clip, I'll try to leave a link below here for you to check it out. Essentially, this has stirred stuff online, right? And me having this platform and talking about things I talk about, I'm always talking about tapping into your roots and all that stuff. And, I am all about reconnecting with what has been lost and what has been diminished, right? Especially when it comes to the indigenous heritage of mine and so many others that, in the Caribbean have kind of had that taken away due to the events of colonization and so on and so forth. Hearing this coming from this guy, I have to say, is not surprising at all. And the reason why I say that is because the majority of Puerto Ricans think this way. And I'd argue the majority of people in the Caribbean kind of think this way too, about whatever country colonized them. And it's just a sad reality of it. And, I have many people in my family that also believe this way, that think this way. And, I don't argue with them about it. I don't care to change anyone's mind. But the fact of the matter is that that's how the majority of Puerto Ricans tend to think. I know that there's an outspoken, minority on the internet, that has a lot of information. It's all about, reconnecting to their roots and all that stuff. And that's great. I am a part of that group, but it's a very small group when in comparison to the vast majority. As many of you know, following my channel, I often talk about, my mixed heritage and all of that. And I'm very proud of all of my antiquated ancestors, my pre-Christian ancestors, because that's what I believe in. That's what I do. I intend to reconnect with my pre-Christian ancestors, with my ancestors that venerated the earth and venerated their ancestors and, venerated the greater spirits of the world. They just lived more in tune with nature and all of those things. That's what I tie myself to. That's what I look to connect to. I don't look to connect with the conquistador. I don't look to connect with anything else outside of that or anything, having to do with the things that I'm going to bring up in this video. Because more often than not, I'm very hesitant to even bring up the fact that I am from Puerto Rico. And I don't like to call it Puerto Rico, like I've told people before, but I know it's corny to people on the internet. So that's why I'm just saying Puerto Rico in this video. But I like to refer to it as Borican because that's what it originally was called. And I like to give respect to that when I can. And that might throw some people off because Puerto Ricans are immensely nationalistic. They have flags on literally everything. I know you've seen the memes. You've probably seen it in real life. If someone is Puerto Rican, you're going to find out in the first 3 seconds you see them because they're going to have some flag of Puerto Rico on them somewhere. And I'm not one of those individuals because I don't care to be nationalistic. And the reason why I don't is because I don't associate with the common culture of most people in Puerto Rico. I'm not a Christian. I don't like to eat fried chuleta and fried pork this and pork that and all this stuff. And you wonder why some people, not all, but, you wonder why a good percentage of the population ends up with problems dealing with their health and diabetes and all these other things. It's a lot to do with, just like the poor diet choices, really. But apart from that, just also the overt nationalism and pride, which to me is not really founded on much outside of sports and entertainment. And while those things are impressive and those things are things worthy of praise, I'm not going to degrade a Puerto Rican artist or a Puerto Rican athlete from their talent because it is such a small island from the middle of the Caribbean. And yet so many famous people have come from it. So many famous athletes, so many famous entertainers. One of the most famous entertainers in the whole world right now is Puerto Rican. And, that's something that is inspiring, I will say. But aside from that, where is the real pride coming from? Because unfortunately, Puerto Rico, like any other Caribbean island, is going to suffer the same fate that every other island is going to suffer because the islands are all disunited. They're all different countries. They're all under different jurisdictions and whatnot. And the only way that islands have power, by the way, in this modern era is if they all join together. They have to be a commune of islands that work together. And you see, that would be a vision that I would be behind. But because that's not really possible in the current day and age and in the current time, Could it be possible some point in the future? Maybe, but right now it's not. So we're just going to go with that. But, that's something that I could feel national pride behind. But that's not something that's going to happen anytime soon, if it ever does. And so while there are things to be proud about, there's also a lot of things that could be fixed, a lot of things that could be addressed, a lot of things that could be more prominent in the culture that I think personally would benefit a lot of people. But obviously, it's not something that's appealing to people. Because what I'm referring to is that admiration for nature, that connection to the land and to taking good care of it. And, I know that there are people that do, but to be honest, there's a lot of people that don't. I've been to the island many times. I was born on the island. So for those of you that are going to comment on this video, oh, no sabo, oh, you were born in the United States. No, I wasn't. I was born in Bayamón, Puerto Rico. Yo nací en Bayamón y yo me creí aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero yo voy a Puerto Rico cada año, cabrón. And with that being said, I know that's the first time I speak Spanish on this channel. But anyways, with that being said, what I envision for the island is very different from what most Puerto Ricans envision for it, and what most people from Puerto Rico or whatever, family from Puerto Rico, whatever, what they feel and what they where the pride comes from is different. It's different. My pride comes from my blood. It comes from my ancestors. It comes from the people that had to struggle and go through all of those horrible things for me to be here today. My family's been on that island for thousands of years before Puerto Rico ever existed. And that to me means more than anything having to do with any flag or any Christianity or any food or any whatever the case people are proud of, which I'm not knocking. If that's you, that's you. But for me, that's not where I stand. Like I said, I derive my pride from being indigenous, from having that indigenous blood coursing through my veins. My family's been here for thousands of years, generations and generations and generations on generations. And that means a lot to me. Obviously, I still value my African heritage. Obviously, I still value my pre-Christian European heritage. But, like I'm saying, my vision for the Caribbean as a whole, which maybe I'll talk about in another video, is different from what Puerto Ricans see for themselves. People are going to do what is deemed normal by their society, and it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince people, convert people, whatever the hell I think. I'm just going to do me, and I'm just hoping that, whether it be online or wherever, I just want people to reconnect with their roots and reconnect with the earth and learn to take better care of themselves and learn to take better care of the earth around them, the planet around them, wherever they live. Just take good care of it. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your family. Take good care of all those things. That's what I want to inspire. A lot of Puerto Ricans want Puerto Rico to look like Disney. They want Orlando in Puerto Rico. That's what they want. I don't care about that. I don't think that should be a thing. I think that Caribbean islands need to separate from whatever they're attached to and all band together and do something together to try to keep themselves from getting the entire coastline bought out by all these major multi-million-dollar corporations and resorts and all this shit, and be able to preserve the coastline, be able to preserve the agriculture, because that's what these islands were made for, was agricultural society and having, this coastal freedom to access the beach and all of that. Why is this a problem in the Caribbean? Because they didn't band together, and now other nations have come up with a way to exploit these nations. The last thing I'll say here, because I could expand upon that I'll make a whole another video for my thoughts on how the Caribbean could have been different. But anyways, to bring it back to the video, when he talking about the churches and the streets and the schools and all that stuff, we had our own form of that already. We had our own, spiritual leaders. We had our own education. We had a better quality of life. We had a healthier life. We had, a lot of things that people today yearn for that they feel like they can't obtain. And most importantly, people back then lived a happier life. They didn't have to worry about taxes and bills and all this other bullshit. For those of you that want to downplay and talk down on your own ancestors, your own indigenous ancestors, los indios no sabían nada, eran locos, no sabían nada, blah, blah, blah. If you look at other places in the Americas, I know you're not going to do your history research on your own people, but, if you look at like the Mayans and Aztecs and the Incas and all these other places in the Americas, the Muisca people in Colombia, whatever, they developed and built literal institutions with the massive road networks and massive infrastructure and massive education. So to say indigenous people are incapable of building this type of institutions is beyond ridiculous. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'd be more than happy to debate you in the comments and in Spanish for those of you that may not speak too well English. Podemos hablar en español también. If you want to debate in Spanish, we can debate in Spanish. I don't care. Go ahead and leave it down below. I'll be more than willing to. Trust me. And like I said, real quick, I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm just making it clear where I stand, where my point of view is. Anyways, thank you again. Catch you guys on the next one. Keep diving into your roots. Ashe. Puñeta.